Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and I had said before, well actually I didn't, that get a little bit burnout on reviewing movies. You know, a lot of people, which is very humbling, have sent me stuff. I've been reviewing a lot of movies lately. And got burnt out. Nothing this year really interests me. And a lot of people ask me stuff. I don't care about the Poltergeist remake. I mean, it looks like it. Same movie, different day, generic. Take Poltergeist, copy shit, and then be generic. You know, just really, even Furious 7, Avengers 2, if I really want to watch those, I can wait till DVD. Like, nothing really screams for me to go at the theater. That's why I really don't want to watch anything that comes out nowadays. But I did grab tons of these wrestling DVDs, and I want to watch them, and I figure, well, since I'm watching them, I'll review some of them. I don't know how many, but this is stuff I want to watch. Hey, why not do a video talking about my thoughts on it? The first one being Bret Hart. This is a 3-disc collector's edition. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Bret the Hitman Hart. I'm a fan of this guy. I think he's a good wrestler. And if you're wondering, this is what the back of the DVD. I know there's another one called the Dungeon Collection or something like that. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm fine with this. And it's a 3-disc. Now, on disc 1, you have a little over 2-hour documentary, which I found very interesting. I thought it was a really good documentary. You also have interview moments, just some little snippets from some stuff that wasn't in the documentary, tribute videos, and a couple matches, and then disc 2 and disc 3 are more matches. I'm not really going to talk about the matches themselves. I'm just going to say what they are, but I will talk about the documentary. But before getting into that, disc 1, like I said, you have the documentary. It's about over 2 hours long, but I was never bored. I thought it was really interesting. Bret Hart interview moments. Bret talks about the origin of the name The Dungeon. Talks about being away from family on Halloween. Talks about how well the Hart Foundation got along. About how he learned the sharpshooter. About how his brother Owen Hart called their dad Stu Hart. That's a funny story. Learning the ropes, family tree, sunglasses, how he got those, how the whole sunglasses thing came about, was because actually when he was in an interview, he was really nervous, so his eyes would keep doing like this. So it's like, okay, you know, put some sunglasses, and that way he got a lot more calm with that. How it was being a villain, you know, a heel. And some tribute videos because a lot of people involved with Bret Hart have passed away, unfortunately. I mean, his brother Owen Hart died because of an accident where he was going to the ring way too damn high in this stupid way, and he fell. Owen Hart fell and died in the ring. British Bulldog passed away. And this, not only that, but this is like to people he knew who have gone on and said some nice words about a big boss man, said some nice words about Miss Elizabeth and, you know, all these other people. I thought that was really nice. And sad, you know, Brian Pillman had passed away. Like, there's a snapshot of it's him, Brian Pillman, Owen Hart, British Bulldog, and Anvil, who was part of the Hart Foundation with Bret Hart. I'm like, wow, a lot of those people have passed away, except him and I don't think Jim Neidhart has passed away, but if I do, I apologize. And matches on disc 1, Hart Foundation versus British Bulldogs, Hart Foundation versus Killer Bees. Disc 2, SummerSlam, Bret Hart versus British Bulldog. Bret Hart versus Bam Bam Bigelow in Barcelona, Spain, which that was a weird one that they have on there because the announcing is all done in Spanish, so you can't understand what the announcers are saying, so I thought that was a weird choice. King of the Ring, Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect. WrestleMania 10, Bret Hart versus Owen Hart. Boston Garden, Bret Hart versus Ricky Steamboat. To be honest, I thought that match was disappointing considering the two involved. I mean, this was early in Bret Hart's career in 1986. But, I don't know, it just seemed disappointing with those two involved. But Bret Hart versus Ted DiBiase. Or Hart Foundation versus Rockers. Hart Foundation versus Nasty Boys at WrestleMania 7. Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect SummerSlam 91. District 3. Bret Hart versus Owen Hart. Bret Hart versus Hakushi in Your House. Bret Hart versus Diesel at Survivor Series 95. Bret Hart versus British Bulldog in Your House. That's actually the match that I was talking about in one of my Raw reviews because they aired it on Raw. And I thought it was a pretty good match. Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13. That's the famous one where Bret is a submission match. Sharpshooter. Stone Cold's got the blood coming down. He doesn't say I quit. He passes out. Bret Hart versus Undertaker, One Night Only. Kind of a weird match to have on there, to be honest. And Bret Hart versus Chris Benoit. This is when Bret Hart... This is the only WCW match Bret Hart has on this. And it was a tribute match to Owen Hart because Bret Hart was at WCW when he found out that his brother died in WWF. In a stupid way, to be honest. And yes, Chris Benoit, you have a match with him. He's also a little bit in the documentary. This is, of course, before Chris Benoit went crazy, murdered his wife and kid, which it's hard to watch anything with that guy in it because you're like, that's the guy who killed his wife and kid. Now, granted, a doctor looked at his brain and he said that it looked like he had the brain of an 80-year-old Alzheimer patient. So concussions can do damage on you. And of course, this is the guy who, one of his big moves was a flying headbutt. I mean, you're throwing your head everywhere day in and day out, hundreds and hundreds of days a year. You know, the head, it can only take so much. I mean, so it was weird watching that. But the documentary itself, I thought was really good, which is the main reason why I wanted this. Talks about his family, his background, his father really been into wrestling, and how people would go to his father Stu Hart to train to wrestle, and how he worked hard and became city championship. He won that, and how these two Japanese wrestlers taught him how to wrestle, especially pro wrestling, taught him more on that. His work in Calgary Stampede Wrestling and working with people like Dynamite Kid. Some really good matches. This really in-depth, I will say. It's a little over 2 hours. Again, it's about 2 hours and 7 minutes long. It's a very in-depth documentary because a lot of his early matches before he got to WWF, a lot of his matches, whether it be Dynamite Kid or went to a lot of other stuff. Even a little bit where he was in Japan. He was in Japan for a little bit. It's funny, one that sticks out is when he got to WWF, and they show, when they show a wrestler, they show his name underneath, right? Titantron, that type of thing, like his name underneath, like titles. When he first got in there, it says Bret, B-R-T-T, where, he's only one T, but they actually put it with two T, so they didn't even look into spelling his name right. And about stories like they wanted Bret to be Cowboy Bret with an all white, and he's like, no, that's not a good idea. And then him being in the Hart Foundation, manager Jimmy Hart, Jim Neidhart. Okay, you guys have Hart as your last name. Go together and be the Hart Foundation. And him being the bad guy, they were bad guy tag team. How he's getting more and more popular. Let's put him in the singles. Then with Mr. Perfect winning the Intercontinental Championship. Really good matches. You have Roddy Piper in there for a little bit. Talking about his match with Bret Hart at, forget which, I forgot where, was it WrestleMania? I forgot which one. But he had the Intercontinental title, Roddy Piper, and Bret Hart pinned him. And Bret Hart was really one of the only guys who pinned Roddy Piper. So you can tell that Roddy Piper really respected Bret Hart. Really cool to see Roddy Piper on there. Talks about the whole thing with Tina the Ring, him winning Tina the Ring, about how they wanted Lex Luger just maybe come in, and now that Hogan's gone, maybe have that stuff work out, and it didn't work. Well, I mean, before that you had, you know, him doing stuff with British Bulldog, him doing stuff. What was it? I'm trying to remember. I think there was something about him and Ric Flair. I forget exactly what it was. He talks about how the whole thing with WrestleMania 9 and how Hogan, just comes in, and how, it wasn't, he didn't think it was the right thing to do, and Bret was right. And pretty much how he got acclaim, wrestling his brother at WrestleMania 10, wrestling Shawn Michaels. There's a point where maybe he would have a film career, which something I didn't really know about. How he had fun working with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and how this whole thing turned where people were booing him and cheering for Austin, and it became this U.S. versus Canada type of thing. And then, of course, the Montreal Screwjob and Survivor Series 1997, where Shawn Michaels puts the sharpshooter on Bret, and even though Bret didn't give up, they go, okay, ding, ding, ding. So Shawn wins the championship, and Bret's like, what the hell? He got screwed out. And pretty much this whole thing of, who fucked up who. And you get the other side of the story on this one, interesting enough. So, that was pretty interesting. And to be honest, I side with Bret Hart on this. I know, only because the whole deal was, you know what? A great thing to watch is something called Wrestling with Shadows, which I need to grab that sometime. It's on YouTube though. That's how I saw it. It was uploaded on YouTube in one go. But I really want to grab that because Wrestling with Shadows is very interesting behind the scenes. Where people were like filming stuff for Bret Hart because he was being popular. And it just so happened to be filming around the same time that happened. And about how Vince was ready to give him this 20-year contract, and then he said no because he's running out of money, and how Bischoff and WCW or Ted Turner are hurting them. And I'm like, Vince McMahon is a fucking billionaire. Bullshit. I'm sorry, now a millionaire. Back then he was probably a billionaire. Like, get the fuck out of here. But Bret chose WWF. But he's... It's not on here, but I remember on there, the Wrestling with Shadows, Bret saying that, well, maybe you should, go to WCW. Maybe you should do this, do that. Like they talk about like a lack of communication. That's what they keep talking about. And Bret's like, okay, I want to go to WCW. I don't want to lose in my hometown of Canada. I'll come in the next day or whatever and give the build up, and that's it. And okay, he doesn't want to lose in Canada. I mean, if he's going to WCW, from what maybe I'm wrong. Maybe WCW does wrestle in Canada. In fact, now I think about it, they probably do, but I mean, I would assume. I always thought they were in one location in like Atlanta, Georgia, but I could be wrong. I'm not the most knowledgeable in WCW, I will admit. But okay, if it was Hulk Hogan, you would have done it in a second. That's what I'm talking about. If it was Hogan, you would have done it in a second. This is a guy who was a champion for years and was helping your company out, and you say you don't give him one thing, then you say fucking no to another. And I think, honestly, I think Vince didn't trust anybody at that point, because that was a point where the women's champion, Alundra Blaze, I think, was WWF champion, and then she went on WCW with the bell and threw it in the trash, which hurt the women's division of WWF, because Vince like, fuck that, I'm not going to have it, which is, tarnished it, which was a shitty thing for that girl to do in WCW, to come from WWF to WCW and just dump the fucking belt there. But Bret got screwed. And of course, Vince like, Bret screwed Bret. Yeah, go screw yourself, Vince. Guy's an asshole. About how, anyway, getting back to this long tangent, but his time at WCW, how WCW for some reason held him back, like they didn't let him do anything for the longest time. Apparently it was because then there was another show called Thunder. It's like, well, I need to split this up, so let's put Bret Hart on Thunder, and they didn't really use Bret that much. And like one of the only moments was the thing where Goldberg's gonna spear Bret, but Bret gets up because you find out he has like a metal thing underneath his shirt that stopped Goldberg, which I thought that was actually pretty cool. And the death of Owen Hart, then having this tribute match for his brother Owen at WCW with Chris Benoit. Then Goldberg hit him during a match and got Bret a concussion. He had to retire after that. And then he thinks because of that concussion later on, he got a stroke. I'll tell you one thing, I never thought he would be back in WWF. I kind of feel like he should not have. But I guess he said, fuck it. Bury it under the bridge. And made amends. Not only by the time this DVD came out, but in fact, I don't know what he's done since, Bret Hart, but the guy seems like a good guy. He seems like a soft-spoken guy. I'm sure there are people who say, well, he's a hard ass and this and that, but it seemed like he was about the wrestling. That's what it seemed like. He's about the wrestling. He's about, the pro wrestling. He's don't fuck around. Let's do something. He seemed like a man about business. Like, let's do it. Let's not piss around, fuck around, but not in a harsh way. I don't mean that in a harsh way. I mean, like, how do I put it? If people are just partying and stuff, he seems like the guy who is lacing his boots and watching videos and his wrestling videos in his room to see what he can do better. I mean, that's what this guy seemed like. He seemed like a very good guy, very nice guy, soft-spoken guy, and seemed like a hard worker, shows in the ring. He's a great wrestler. And yeah, quite a few matches. I mean, if you don't own WrestleMania or SummerSlam, it's pretty good. I'm trying to think of any matches that they could have included. I'm sure there's some, but I'm just drawing a blank. Well, I mean, like what was it, the Iron Man match, the 1 hour match between him and Shawn Michaels. I don't think that's on here. That was at a WrestleMania. Yeah, that's not on here. The Survivor Series where he got screwed over, that's not on here. I thought that would have been interesting to see all the way through. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. That's the thing with these matches. The way it is nowadays, you can find these matches on YouTube. more than likely, but I didn't. I thought the documentary was really good. I thought it was really interesting. Seems like a really hard worker who's had a lot of tough times. I mean, a lot of people, Owen Hart. I don't know if by this time British Bulldog had, at least by the time of the documentary, I'm not sure if he had passed away, the British Bulldog. I'm not sure. But Owen Hart and British Bulldog and those people passing away, concussion from Goldberg, getting screwed over in WWF, uh, stroke, all that stuff. I hope he's doing well, Bret Hart. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Really good documentary, really worth a look. And that's just some of my thoughts on the Bret Hart DVD. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. Later.